we'll try to have some time for presentation and some time for discussion. So I maybe will be quick in the introduction in order to let time for the discussion after that. So thank you again to everyone that could participate to the workshop, and also to the organizer for the virtual event that is new for everyone. I will be speaking first, and then we will have some other speakers. We thought that we are too many to do a roundtable. So maybe if we can enter into the pad and write some few words about you, it will replace the roundtable that is quite difficult to do when we are 13 people within a room. The workshop today is called Knowledge Production for Degrowth, because we are some people working on this topic. I am Aude Lapprand, working in a French NGO that is called Citoyennes, that is mainly working on science and democracy. And that is trying to imagine how science could be more within the democratic debate more generally. Today, we try to have a first introduction about how research is an activity that is not very questioned, but that is an activity that can serve growth, and we'll try to illustrate a little bit this hypothesis and to explain more what is REVeSS. That is a project that we launched 1 year ago, around 1 year ago, and we are within, that is a work in progress, and we will present this work in progress in the first introduction, and then a speaker will explain for each committee of the project what are the work going on. The committee one committee is dealing with health, the other one with energy, housing and mobility, and third one with food and agriculture. And then I hope we'll have plenty time to discuss together about all the work that is going on. And we will be very interested by your input. So here are the list of the speakers. I suppose that everyone will introduce themselves later. And I will go fast to the first slide. The first slide is the first part of my presentation, deals with the general topic, how research saves growth. I hope you can see the details, but maybe not all the details, but I will focus my speeches in the first part on the research at the European level, because it's quite, it's a budget important that is dedicated to research at the European level, and the strategy of research that is discussed and voted at the European Parliament is not quite different from the strategy at the national level. So we thought that it was important to speak about the European level, and then the activity, the project that we have could be very easily transposed to the national level. Here, at the European level, the Commission is dealing with the multi-annual financial framework every 6 years. The previous one was from 2014 to 2020. So we are right now into the discussion for the next multi-annual financial framework. And the research budget in the general budget of Europe represents 80 billion of euro for 6 year or investment. This budget is included in the chapter competitiveness for growth and jobs. So this is the first argument to demonstrate how research is closely linked to competitiveness for growth and jobs, and it is very clear in the text. The legal basis of the European framework for research is the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, the Articles 170, that is dedicated to industry. So we see very fast that the link between industry and research, that is knowledge production, is very, very tight in the European mind. So I don't know if you can see anything in the slide. Maybe it's too small. The figure that you have in this slide represents, I don't know if you can see, represent the investment in research from the 80s to now, to 2020, and it's decreasing with time quite impressively. The previous framework of research was Horizon 2020. I put here some occurrence of the word that was part of the legal text of Horizon 2020. We see that there is a lot of occurrence for the world's competitiveness, competition, market, industry, small enterprise, and very, very few occurrence of the word consumer, citizen, society. We could have chosen other word, but it was quite interesting for us to see what is within the Horizon 2020 legal text. The next budget for research will be called Horizon Europe. The discussion is still in progress. What will be the final budget of this program? There have been very, very recent discussion about that and a declaration from the President of European Commission 3 days ago. It seemed that the budget for health and the Green Deal activity will be increased and maybe some other decrease, but it is still in discussion, and we can see that is a very political discussion, even if it is not discussed at all by media or in society. Even if there is no democratic debate about what kind of research and what kind of topic we want to treat in the research activity with the public fund of research, there are some other actors that are very well informed about the stakes that are within this program. Here we put as an example a letter written by 93 European associations that are business-oriented associations, that are purely associations that represent the industry interest, like Fertilizer Europe, Plastic Europe, and so on. And they wrote a letter, a public letter 1 year ago about their interest in Horizon Europe preparation, but whereas there is so many discussion in that is not known from the public and that are very that influence very strongly what will be the investment in research and then the knowledge production in the future. As a result, there is some part of the research area that are favored and other ones that are not so funded. As an example, I put here the expenses of research in the European Commission and at the national level in the 28 countries of Europe. You can see, for example, that there is 20% of the expenses that is dedicated to information and communication technology and only 3% on the agriculture area. Some citizens may think that it is not the right priority, but for that we need some debate to speak about that. The next program, I speak a little bit about that, is Horizon Europe. It will be around 100 billion euro for 6 years, and it is divided in 3 main pillars: open innovation, open science, and the main pillar is called global challenges or global issues and industrial competitiveness. As I said before, for the European Commission, the the goal for industry and the goal for the global challenges are the same. That is, we can mix global challenges, society challenges, and industrial competitiveness because they are supposed to go in the same direction. This pillar is divided in 6 clusters: health, culture, civil security, digital industry, climate, energy and mobility, food, bioeconomy, natural resources. We will go back to that later. As during the preparation of Horizon 2020, there have been a lot of political declaration in order to have a program that is well linked to society and so on. For example, I put here a quote of the European Council conclusion 3 years ago that was calling for a better involvement of citizens in the agenda setting process of Horizon Europe, that is in the decision of what kind of research we want to favor, to fund it. Citizens should be better involved. With the other NGO, 3 years ago, we called for from some concrete measure in order to help this involvement. So we called for citizen convention, for example, to be organized at the European level in order to inform citizens and to give some randomly chosen citizens the possibility to make some strong recommendation to the Commission and the Parliament. We have been heard, but nothing has been made, and we are now in 2020. The next program is supposed to enter in action in 2021, and till now we didn't see any concrete realization of better citizen involvement in the research program at all. So we are following our action. We are keeping on with the campaign for the Science with and for Society challenge. And we go very quickly on that. We continue to ask for citizen convention for research agenda setting and to ask for more participatory research funding, that is research that is co-built with civil society organization and academic workers. And all this recommendation is supposed to put society at the center of something that is composed from research, industry, and democracy. This is today we can see that industry is at the center, but not society. And we are also working on the process that we call Horizon Terre. I will explain you right now what is this process. In this project, what we want to do is to bring together students, academics, and associative sectors in order to think collectively on the following question: what knowledge exactly do we need in order to preserve life and ability on the planet? That means a little bit different from the European Union. It is not what knowledge do we need to offer more jobs and more growth, but what do we really need? And therefore, we think that we have three main challenges. In order to succeed, we have to create synergy between different kind of knowledge and collectives. We want to produce alternative research scenarios in order to campaign with some alternatives, and also to publicize and to debate as large as possible on this topic. What is the knowledge that we need to foster a desirable future? The workshop today is the first part of this debate that we will be willing to open as large as possible in the next month. In practice, we have proposed to 15 people for each committee, that means 45 people to join us on this work and to constitute 3 committees of 15 committed stakeholders. We wanted, before the COVID crisis, to be together during 3 weekends in order to have some collective intelligence and to create the scenario. The COVID crisis decided another way. The 3 committee is one committee that is working on the health topic, the other one on energy, housing, mobility, and the other one on food and agriculture. That means that we took 3 of the 6 clusters from Horizon Europe, and we choose to focus our effort on those topics that seems to us more important. And in each committee, we have people coming from university, as NGO association, and students. We worked till now on the production of research scenario by joining ourselves before the COVID crisis, beginning of February. We use the backcasting methodology in order to imagine what are the desirable future state, and in order to find what kind of knowledge do we need to go from the current state to the future states, desirable future state. We decided to produce some scenario that, at least for the format, will stick on the European format, the Horizon Europe format, that is 50 pages, rational, some areas on intervention, some broad lines of research. We want to open the debate as soon as possible, as we have some kind of text that could be discussed with other people, and we want to take time for this consultation in order to have as much as possible improvement of the text, and we will have a final weekend in October to finalize this research scenario, and then to open another round of consultation and advocacy and so on. This work is also think in parallel with a democratic call that we have. We are not the expert that we will decide what kind of research we want to perform. It is not just an opportunity to think together and to propose something, but we think that we need some democratic procedure in order to decide, and we are still asking for citizen convention or procedure, participatory procedure such as citizen convention, in order to let society themselves and not experts decide what kind of research they want. I will end my introduction now. I don't know if you have some specific technical question right now. If not, I can pass. Jérôme can follow the presentation. He's representing the Health Committee, and if we win some time here, we can have more time for the discussion later. If you want to ask some question and so on, please note your name in the discussion right here. So Eva, you wanted to ask a question or say something?
Yes, please. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I just had a question that you might have thought already, and most likely have, because at least I'm in Finland, and there are citizens who are really against science and research, and it doesn't say that we shouldn't hear them, but how have you thought about this possibility when hearing people out?
We are thinking right now what kind of research we have to prevent, because we think in the current crisis we will need more knowledge in order to go through those crises. But then it is a very good question, because I think that we are now in a Degrowth conference, and there is some part of us that want to have a minor place for research. Maybe we should do less research. That is a very good question. But at least what we want to emphasize is that we think that we should do less techno-scientific science, and do other kind of research, philosophical research, anthropological research, biological research. I don't know exactly. We are working on it, but that is our point of view generally. Tejendra?
Yeah, so hello.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for your very nice presentation. And can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah. So my point was that here we are talking about a knowledge production for degrowth in a pandemic scenario, if we say that, or maybe a post-pandemic. There are things will get changed. So what are the methodology, whatever methodology we have, we can use before the pandemic in terms of social science researches. If you want to do any anthropological study, ethnography, it would be easy to it was not that much ethical question for a researcher. But nowadays institution has been logged, and then the things are on digital platforms. So how do you think that this kind of research which you are thinking or aspiration do you have, you will go on in post pandemic situation?
It's also, thank you very much. It's also a very good question, and I think that maybe we will go through that after in the debate, because it is also a question that we have within our work in the committee. What kind of posture do we have to think? Do we have to think about some research area in a optimistic scenario or a very pessimistic scenario? It can be very different, and honestly, I think that your input can be interesting in this question, because I don't think that we know how to deal with a very pessimistic scenario. If we have a pandemic scenario or such a one, I don't know if we will be very comfortable to propose some research axes in this context. But it is really the question that we are dealing with in our current work. It's not an answer, but maybe we go through the problematic of the committee, and sorry, Ruth wanted to add something. Ruth?
Yeah, I also have a question. It's of course also a kind of a broader one, but it links a bit to the point that Eva brought up before, right? Because I think in our society, and this we can witness especially at the moment in these pandemic times, that there are not only people who are like not interested in science, but also people who are fundamentally skeptical of science, right? And of both, I mean, here we can see of science in the health area, but also of climate change science. And so my question is also in your approach, which seems to be fundamentally based on, yeah, like including all kinds of citizens in agendas for knowledge production, how you would deal with also such people in a way.
It is, yeah, it's maybe more linked to the work we are doing in the association that is called Citoyennes. Our hypothesis, I think that the criticism and the skeptical attitude of people regarding science is probably linked to the bridge that is not anymore there between scientists and society. That means that there are the experts and there are the others that don't know. And our hypothesis is that is not simple, and the failure between science and society is mainly linked to the lack of democracy and the lack of recognition of other kind of knowledge. The only knowledge available, the only right knowledge is not only the university knowledge and not only the academic knowledge. We have to mix up a little bit more knowledge and to recognize that some kind of skepticism is linked to bad things that happen in the scientific field. The crisis is also linked to I don't know, Dieselgate or all the research dealing with nanotechnology. And if people are against it, there seems to be skeptical. Sometime the skepticism is funded. So we have to discuss more and to organize the democracy on this topic in order to decrease this skepticism, I think. But, I think that these are big topics that should be also discussed with the other speakers, and I will let Jérôme speak about the health point of view, and then we will have the time to discuss all this in the final part of the workshop.
Shall I go ahead? Hello, everyone. So we'll deal with the health cluster that's included in the Horizon Europe program. Max, could you go 2 slides further? Thanks. This cluster, in fact, consists in one justification, which is basically the philosophy, the vision of health by the European Union, you would say, and 6 areas of intervention, which are health through the life course and environmental and social health, non-communicable diseases, infectious diseases, technologies, and healthcare systems. So we sent to the participants a more complete presentation in which, in fact, we have achieved a rapid analysis of this program. So I won't go through the 50 pages of the cluster health, but I will just give a few hints about our main conclusions on them. So next slide, please. So the first one deals with the representation of health by Horizon Europe, and what we can say is that it's a biased vision of health without any precise orientation. There is no implication or input of social science, and the multidimensional aspects of human health have been disregarded to the benefit of focusing on a biomedical and industrial approach of health. It's also health without people, which means that people are only considered as economic agent and customer of the medical industry. Besides, this Horizon Europe program reduces health to the people's health to maintaining only an active and productive population in order to support the economic growth. Another thing is that the health policies focus only on the healthcare system, on the institution instead of people. And basically what you read in this Horizon Europe cluster is that the aim of the program is to maintain the system in good health, not the people. The 2 main aspects that we oppose to is that health policies is only considered at the service of the economic growth on 2 ways. First, health is viewed as a market where you can buy basically goods, service, products. And the other thing is that you support the actors of this market, mainly pharmaceutical companies and any private actors. And the last topic on this vision of health is that Eurozone Europe seems to consider research policies only as opportunities to develop disruptive technologies. So there is a really hype phenomenon here. Progress per se is only seen as a finality without any really clear added value to the population health. So basically, it's like health is a tool for the development of technology, and technology are not really a tool for improving the population health. Next slide, please. So in this regard, the mandate of Eurozone Europe seems only to support the evolution of the techno-industrial trend of the health system. And you can read that through the program. Basically, they seem to want to impose a technophile vision and program of health, promote its acceptability by all the actors, not only the patients, the people, but also the institutions and the professionals, the caregivers, or any kind of care actors. And they want basically to convert patients and caregivers into customers. For that purpose, they need to protect the juridical and commercial interest of health tech companies. And it seems to be also the purpose of the European institution to serve as a marketing or juridical service of this company. They want also to advocate for public financing of these techno-industrial projects and adapt the healthcare system to the whole new tech paradigm. So basically, the Eurozone Europe healthism seems purely artificial, alienating because people are not included in it, and counterproductive. And we don't see how EU wants to support basically his public health mission when in fact it's running after the increase or the support of the economic health of a massive medical industrial complex. Next slide, please. And another one. Yeah, so what do we oppose to that? And that's going to be 4 slides. The first one is a different representation of health, where Europe promotes an old, static, and obsolete representation of health. We think we should revolutionize or implement or reassess what health is in our societies. And we need first to integrate the multiple dimensions of health. The individuals, basically, in fact, Europe is only considering the last part, which is the organizational and social system. And we think we need also to insert in the program the individual dimension of health, but also that proposed on supported by caregivers and care actors. We need also to foster dynamic, changing representations and practice in health in order to improve their transformative capacity to support a reflexive and critical vision of health and disease by deconstructing the norms and concepts and co-constructing them with people in the civil society. And at last, we need to foster a dynamic and integrative approach that enforced humanities and social science contributions with an interactive and interdisciplinary approach and innovative methodology. Next slide, please. For which finality? So the idea is not that health is an economic resource. We don't think we should only focus on active and productive population, and we should go back to the definition of the WHO of health, which is basically a physical, mental, and social well-being. Health is not a market, so we need to sever the links with the health private sector, decouple them from the industrial growth, and promote low-growth approaches when it comes to health. And because health is not a techno-scientific game field, we need also to break with this vision of technology for healthcare, which is purely a promise regime, and instead promote low-tech, low-scale, low-cost, and mostly convivial health system. And at last, health should be devoted to people and not to health system, because there are some counterproductive threshold that leads to iatrogenic, pathogenic environment, which means that basically the health system is harming people and not helping them. And we need to construct with the people according to their differences and their diverse trajectory, really specific and multiple health indicators. Next slide, please. So what is the conception of health that we are defending? The first one is that we're pursuing an holistic health, which means that it's based on an ecosystemic approach that encompasses the physical, ecological, social, and mental dimensions. So we must shift from a disease-centered vision to a well-being centered healthcare. The aim being to find some kind of equilibrium, resilience, and adaptation to the ecosystem as a whole. In that regard, we want to promote the environmental health, individuals in their ecological, social, and physical milieu matters. And we need to promote the eco-health concept and approaches and fund all researchers that are linked with that approach. And at last, we need to both focus on individual and population health, looking at the individual health trajectory of people, not looking at one point of their life where they're sick, but trying to consider the whole life from the prenatal to the aging stages of one individual. And that's the same thing for a population, and that was perhaps what Dehendra refers to when we consider pandemics. We need also to have an approach of the ecosystem health as a whole. Next slide. And for that matter, which knowledge do we need? So in that case, we need an integrative, transdisciplinary, and applied approach based on individuals. Which kind of health system can we propose in a growth-free world in terms of preventive, curative, and participative projects? How do we promote health empowerment? How do we deal with social inequalities in health? We need also to fund all the projects based on a holistic approach of health, be it eco-health, which is the ecosystems, the interrelation between the different parts of the ecosystem and their evolution and cross-evolution. And we need also to promote any aspects that deal with environmental health, be it physical, social, or mental. And at last, we need also to reassess the public policies, and specifically in terms of the risk and danger regulation, which is a very big problem right now in the European Union, and promote also any aspects of intervention research. And I think I'm done with it. And there will be, I think, first some technical question, like for Aude, if you have some specific aspects to address. And at the end of the session, we'll have a more general debate where we can perhaps enlarge the focus that I just presented here. The questions are opened. So,
maybe we can switch to the
next
presentation, because in order to save time for the debate.
Okay, so I switch off.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, François.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you can move the diapo, move us to the next slide, please. Or do you have the hand on the slide? No.
This is up to you, François. Either I can do it for you, or you do it by yourself.
I can do it. Okay, I see. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay. So here now we are talking about the climate, energy, and mobility clusters. So we start in this cluster, which we renamed Energy, Housing, and Mobility. We decided to start with a critical review of Horizon Europe orientations, and this Horizon Europe document is presented as such, with objectives which are transitioning to climate neutral, resource efficient and resilient societies, decarbonization of the energy, transport, building, industry and agriculture sectors. The levers that are to be activated are technology, infrastructure, market, behavior and governance in the document, with a strong emphasis on technologies. Which means that in the document there is a lot of room for deployment of innovative and cost-effective technology and solutions which are supposed to be profitable, or which needs to be profitable, with research for development of breakthrough technologies. And also, it is mentioned rational use of resources, in particular using recycling and circular economy rhetoric. The different sectors which are concerned are energy infrastructure, transport, buildings, industrial processes, recycling, waste management, and agriculture. And so this is the main rationale, and it is declined in different areas of intervention, similarly to what has been done for health, which are climate science and solution, energy supply, energy system and grid, building and industrial facilities, communities and cities, competitiveness in transport, clean transport and mobility, smart mobility, energy storage. And for each of this area of intervention, there are different broad lines of research which gives different access, priority access of research, priority orientation, I would say, that are given. So the first step is to that we, as we did with respect to this document, is to try to construct a collective review of this document. And what came out of this discussion was agreement on some objectives to start. So we agree on the importance of the climate change issues, of the importance of resilience, of the need to decarbonize transport, energy, housing, and to involve all different types of stakeholders in the process, including citizens and authorities and private sector, etc. But we have quite strong paradigmatic disagreements with the document of Horizon Europe, in which them, for instance, well, I will just quote the main ones, but in Horizon Europe, the demand for goods and services is considered to grow. This is taken for granted, and the problem is posed in such a manner that its innovation has to fill the gap with environmental and social objectives, despite a growing demand. So we want to question this, and we consider that demand is not taken for granted and could also grow in different types of products or services. And we need to carry some research on how to accommodate for declining demand. Second, globalization and international competition are considered key elements of the future context, and it's not questioned. Solutions are also required to be profitable and market ready, which means that research and development are assumed to contribute to the role is to contribute to European competitiveness and economic growth through patents, etc. And there is a quest for the acceleration of innovation. And most importantly, the document is very techno-oriented. Like technology and infrastructure innovation dominates all the broad lines, so the orientation of research, followed by business model, with just very little focus on social innovation, social science, despite the fact that these are mentioned in the document in different points, but they do not appear in the main orientations. And last, and this technocratic orientation also raised the question of where is the citizen place in terms of deliberation and democracy on technology. And there are also a lot of aspects of technology smartness, automation, high-tech solution, and so on, which are uncritically pushed forward in the orientation of research, and implicitly assumed to be virtuous, and there is no consideration for low-tech requirements. So these are the main criticism that we are doing, and the main point of disagreement. And building on this, we started constructing what will be the basis for the advocacy claim. So for this advocacy, we started from brainstorming, asking which kind of future we want and how do we get there in terms of energy, housing, and mobility. And different concepts have been emerging in the discussion, which are around well-being, autonomy, conviviality, the question of defining boundary and thresholds, the question of scale as well, the idea of slowing down the pace of life and mobility as well, focusing more on humanity and social science and technological solutions, etc. I won't go through all detail, but just to sum up the key themes, the main theme that has emerged of what are the needs we have in terms of knowledge are around understanding governance through stakeholder motivation and action analysis, questioning the relevance of technologies and form of social organization by measuring and assessing impact of technologies, nourishing the imagination and thinking of alternative ways of life and model of society, and improving technology and innovating. It could be high or low tech, but there is a question of appropriateness of technology. And so I want to go in detail through all of this, but if there is any question, I can come back to the slide. But so there are, for each theme, different kind of questions that we've been asking to ourselves. And on this basis, we started drafting a document, but it's still work in progress. So sorry for the somewhat unorganized structure and presentation. But here are the main point on which we started drafting. We decided to adopt a strategy which is about sticking with the thematic structure of the Horizon Europe document. And adapting it. Well, we were wondering if it would be a good move and if it would not constrain too much the proposal we want to make. And so far we found that we can pretty much keep the same structure, but adapt it marginally. So we added different points like analyzing, understanding stakeholder motivation and actions. We keep most of what was in the climatology and climate solutions proposal in Horizon Europe, because we pretty much agree with what is said in it. We gather a lot of things in energy system integration, supply, storage, grids, and demand management, which is a lot related to development of renewable energy and phasing out fossil energies and other impactful technologies. We have a cluster about housing and energy transition that we adapted as well, and we gather all the transport-related team in two different categories: transport for people and transport for commodities, in which we will question the mobility need and the growing trends. We added also digital technology with a questioning on which kind of digital technology we want and how do we allow for appropriateness of this technology by citizens. And we did another point of research, which is how do we understand and create a prospective analysis of ecological transition? How do we understand all the economic changes that are intertwined and that are implied by ecological transition? Is the financial sector compatible? Which kind of economic actors can be impacted in which way, and so on. So here again, I won't go in detail of every point, but I can come back if there is any question. The ground is open for discussion. Should you have any question? Otherwise, we can also move to the next cluster and have a general discussion later.
If there is no specific question, technical question, I think we can pass to Maura. We see that there is some comments on the pad. Thank you very much, because it's very interesting. And I propose that everyone that writes something on the pad maybe could present its question or comment after Maura presentation. That means in such like 10 minutes. So we can discuss about that after. It seems that we have an issue. Maura, could you try to speak in order to see if we can hear you? Or maybe Max, can you unmute Maura?
Okay, I think I'm on now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. And now you can see me also, I think. So just one thing, can I move the slide by myself? Okay. So good afternoon to everybody, and thanks to be here and participating. My name is Maura Benegiamo. I am a political ecologist and researcher associated to the Collège d'Études Mondiales in Paris and the University of Trieste in Italy. I have done a research more on extractivism, socio-environmental conflicts, agrarian politics, and agro-technological innovation. So I have been asked by the project Horizon Terre to contribute to the Agriculture and Food Consumption Committee. And I am glad to introduce today the work we did at this group to counteract the Horizon Europe's proposition for research. Okay, just one moment. Just 2 words about our positioning in front of the food and agricultural system issues and the effect of developing it, which is the main topic of the Horizon Europe proposed for research. So we tried to discuss the colonial origins of the agrarian food development policies, and we discussed in the group Europe that agrarian and food development policies date back to colonial times, driven by the willingness of colonial administration to promote commercial farming, provide raw materials to Europe, and to sustain urban settlers in the occupied territories. So, rooted in this colonial economy, agrarian development has involved the application of technologies, principles, and practices from the European agroscience, leading to profound changes in the landscape and the indigenous agrarian system and the promotion of the plantation model. Although the global context has changed since then, with the upcoming of the decolonization process and the emerging of a post-war global governance system, the idea of development as a dynamic of transformation of more traditional agriculture has remained, and the same holds for the resort to top-down techno-scientific solution embedded in productivism and market-driven policies. And we consider that this modernist approach is the same which drives the European strategy, even if in Europe and not elsewhere in the world. And this approach is quite evident in the cluster number 6 of the Horizon Europe strategy, which is titled Food, Bioeconomy, Natural Resources, Agriculture and Environment, and which is subdivided in the 7 sub-clusters that you see on the slide. So very briefly, to the rationale of the Horizon document so the document highlights a multidimensionality of the agro-system degradation, which is something which we agreed to because the statement of the European Commission range from biodiversity to health damage. However, this is understood along with some uncritical concepts that make it possible to predict where the solutions are going to. First of all, humanity is considered as a single block sharing the same responsibility in the face of the climate crisis, and this is evidenced by the expressions such as the growing of global population or global ecological footprint of human activities and so on. In this context, economic growth is called into question by the Horizon Europe document because it is considered unsustainable. But you see that this statement circumvents the problem of growth itself, and the idea is to render accumulation more sustainable by making economy more circular or bio-based in order to promote some kind of the fossilization. And also quite interesting is the fact that the sustainability is reframed with the idea of respecting remain inside the planetary boundary areas, and this is and how we can do that according to the Horizon Europe. First of all, by developing research on data, including dimension on the space-based research and the use of algorithm and artificial intelligence to develop indicators and build scenarios and so on. So it is interesting because we notice that even though the rationale of the problem, the problem is recognized as being multidimensional, in the end, the knowledge and technological fix they propose ending to a monodimensional understanding of the main issues related to food and agriculture. For example, the issue of undernutrition or the unequal pattern of health and nutrition related to food access is framed as lack of nutrients, and so they propose to ensuring more diverse source of proteins or strengthening the protein value of specific crops. And finally, nature is still considered as a total appropriable tool, even now not with the idea of destroying it, but reinforcing the capacity of nature to provide services and assuring values and growth prosperity. I'm sorry, I forgot about the slide. So Another point is that there is no mention of actors. Actors barely exist. There is we never see the word farmer, for example, in the part related to food and food system and agriculture. So we decided to question this approach, and one of the first problem we find in the committee was about the question of the risk of alternative and critic concept to be co-opted and turned into sort of accumulation strategies. And we noticed this because, for example, the document mentions a lot the word agroecology, which was an alternative and struggle tools developed by peasant struggles. So how we tried to reframe research, we asked ourselves how to set out transformative trajectories that could escape this kind of capture, and we decided that fair, inclusive and sustainable food system, we needed to orient research toward, in order to meet the needs of deeply ecological, supportive and inclusive, non-capitalist, non-patriarchal, non-racist and decolonial societies. So we try to, and this is all the question, if our methodology is something problematic or not, but because we also had the problem about being too much normative, but we decided to put forward the kind of desirable society we wanted to. So we decided that a desirable society is, as I said, something that tried to step away from growth, but also from the colonial pattern and the patriarchal pattern, which sustain agrarian development. We and I'm going to end. We decided to reorganize the research question into 4 areas, which are the issue of how to organize agriculture and agricultural system, how to connect agriculture and food consumption with the other societal issues, and how to promote and to insert the practice of agriculture and food consumption in an idea of living well. So we tried for each of these areas to underline some key issues. For example, about how to do agriculture, we try to we say that research could orientate toward the construction of technology can be appropriable and place-based. This is and just to finish, and then we can discuss better. We decided that the organization area should set a research question about the legislation, public policies, food chain and democracy. For example, we try to develop a research question about how to deconnect the value chain, rescaling, or build common legislation which are more in line with common proprietary than private proprietary, and so on. I have no time to go in the details, but our questions are for this workshop are if our way to reframe the research issue for food and agriculture is something which seems to work, or there are more concrete way to organize, for example, just to work on production, transformation, supply chain, restoration, so on, and how to deal with energetic issues, for example. This is something we haven't solutioned yet. I think my time is over, so I prefer to let the time for the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if there is some specific question on the food committee, or if you can switch. Maybe Maura, can you just unmute very quickly?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear some echo. We can switch to the debate. What we propose was to have the discussion about first, what kind of approach would you have used to do the work that we plan to do, to write some alternative scenario, and also some comment or question about what we presented, and also whatever input you can give us, or do not forget that, or do not forget that, or why not focus on that topic, and so on. So there is some comment on the pad. Maybe can you write if you want to speak in the discussion, and or we can comment also what are on the pad with your help. So I saw some comment. Yes, Eva, just go.
Thanks. I probably missed it, but please say again, where are you planning to present the document that you finish at some point?
No, we didn't show any slide on this topic because it is quite difficult now to have a clear vision of what will be going on in the few months. For the Horizon Europe first call, probably we will be too late, because the program is supposed to begin in 2021, so we will probably be too late to influence the future call and program. But the European program is also is always divided in two parts. First, the European Commission write the first call for the first period, 3 years period, and then the second part. So we will try to advocate at the European level for the second part of Horizon Europe. And then the team that are presenting now and the work that we are doing now is based in France, and in France there is a discussion right now on the future of the research, not clearly on the area and what kind of research we need, more on the researcher status and so on, but we will try to provoke the debate on the topic, at least in France. And mainly what we want to achieve is to provoke the debate, not in the research field, but more in the civil society field, in order to say, to express to everyone that this topic seems to us very, very important and very have a huge influence on our future. So we have to advocate more largely and with all the civil society strengths. Simona?
Yes. I had written a question in the pad, which I can just sort of read here. I was asking about if this approach has made room for non-Western epistemologies and ontologies and knowledge, essentially, to inform these different areas of degrowth. And the reason I ask is because many indigenous ways of living and doing these things align really well with the values that are prioritized in a degrowth perspective. So my question was about if and how these sorts of knowledges would be incorporated. And I want to give the speakers a chance to respond, but also I think someone responded saying if I have an idea to share, and I do have a comment, but I will give the floor to the speakers before I share my thoughts, perhaps.
I will do a very quick answer, and then I will try to. I hope that other people will comment. Here in what we presented today is more focused on what kind of research axis we want to perform. Because as I said in the introduction, the work that we are performing in at least Sciences Citoyennes for years and years is more about how we can achieve research, how we can make research. And that's why I mentioned participatory research. That means it is a research that is co-built with different kind of knowledge and different kind of people. It is not really what we want to think about in horizontal, but of course it is very, very important to think about that. And your remark is very important. But it's kind of two kind of demand that we have to the Commission, and one is not less important than the other one. But in horizontal, we focus more on one kind and not on how to perform that. Maybe other people have other comments. Or maybe Simona, you wanted to ask something more?
No, I think that well, what I was here, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, I understand that from what you said, this is more about the specific areas of knowledge that will be produced as opposed to the methods of how they will be. But I did hear, especially towards the end, towards the last section, about like incorporating decolonial approaches. And from my perspective, as someone who believes in degrowth, I think that degrowth has to be decolonial. And something I would share from the research that I've been doing myself is that in order to truly, maintain this decolonial approach, it's important not to tokenize certain knowledge that you can get from different types of communities, working with an Indigenous community that knows a lot about ecological sustainability, for example. It's important that these communities are strengthened in all of their aspects and not just used for the knowledge that is particularly useful for the research agenda. Otherwise, it's sort of a form of recolonization, because it's like tokenizing certain parts of their knowledge and not coming at it from a holistic perspective. But I understand that this is focusing on different areas. I'm of the opinion that in order for the climate crisis sort of and all of its related crises to be dealt with, we have to strengthen forms of communities that are not traditionally Western. And so I think it would be interesting to perhaps incorporate specifically these alternatives that actually already do exist. Because obviously we're trying to build an alternative here, but there's a lot of people, there are a lot of small communities that do live or have lived in these alternative ways. And so incorporating what they have learned and from doing that themselves might be a really interesting and useful and also decolonial and just path forward to take in degrowth.
Yes, I think it could be a very long discussion. Maybe we can do some short intervention in order to let people intervene. it will be a very long discussion. For me, participatory research is really a research where community could be a main actor, and not a way to perform usual research where university, academic will steal knowledge, but it will maybe conduce to another debate. Maura, maybe you wanted to add something?
Yeah. So thank you for all the comments. Also, there are similar comments about the extractive practices of research on the PAD, which I think go along with the issue of decolonialization. Just two things, because this is an open question for us also. And the first is that actually we didn't discuss methodology in the horizontal project, because they didn't ask us to discuss methodology, but also because we are trying to build up a methodology in the same. So we are just trying to develop a kind of discussion and confrontation with the so I'm a researcher, there are activists, there are workers, laborers. So this is a way to have a kind of self-reflexive way to approach a research question and build up research questions. The other thing about and is not easy, but it's a kind of we are doing in the same time we are trying to set out these research lines. And about the decolonial topics in itself, I think we try. So as is the research for Europe, somehow we are not dealing with non-European agriculture system, but in the other side we are integrating the claims of non-European farmers, for example. And when we say that we are trying to decolonize agriculture, is that for example, I just put some point, and the discussion could be really broad, but for example, we have very clear notion of what of climate justice. So we try to be aware about scales, impacts, and all these issues, and also we learn by the decolonial debate that, for example, appropriate and use nature as an instrumental tool, maybe something which is all the modernist rationality, and we try to make a way to distanciate ourselves from this. But this is not an answer; it's just how we try to deal with these issues in the committee. And I finished.
Okay, there are many comments in the pad. Do people that wrote a comment want to speak about that? Diego, Joseph, Elise. Diego, yes?
Hi, thank you very much for the workshop. Yes, I wrote down for health, but it's obviously interacted with the part of food, and it's also connected with what Simona was talking earlier. I think that once that we enter maybe a more degrowth way, we might decrease in the number of health diseases that we will be suffering from, hopefully. And hopefully the weather, the climate will not be pushing more diseases into us. But one thing that keeps popping in my head for many things related to these thematics are, how are we going to finance that in a way that if we're considering that Europe is able to finance big projects basically because of the way we are growing and producing right now, once that we enter a new paradigm, how are we going to keep financing such a common and necessary things as health and care? Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
yeah, that was it. Sorry, I don't know if.
So I may perhaps try to answer to your point, Diego. I think it's a headlong rush. It's the principle of this economy which needs to increase the expenses to build some kind of economical growth that is not sustainable, and that's the case for health or housing or food. And the health system is not sustainable because we won't have the means to afford for it. So, but that's part of the principle of this economy. So that's the basis that we need to contest and propose low cost somehow and low growth health systems.
I would add also that it's a way of being financed on savings in some way, in what is not necessary to consume anymore.
Maybe it is an idea that we could add, that maybe to see what amount of money our proposal will represent, and I'm sure it will be I don't know, 10 times or 15 times less costly than the current research strategy.
It's part of this question actually fits in one of the axes that we choose in the energy, housing, and mobility section, where we added a point on the economics of the transition and which kind of sector will be hit the most, and how will the world financing of this economy will work. So that's definitely, I mean, the financing and research is definitely one of these sectors that we should also question.
Elise wanted to ask a question. Elise, it seems that we cannot hear you.
I think Elise has to leave the room, re-enter, and then enable her microphone to actually speak.
It is quite.
Hello.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
you hear me now. Sorry. Yes, thank you for this seminar. I have asked two questions that are just the same idea, actually. It's related to research regarding food and farming. And with the last two EU strategies, Farm to Fork and Biodiversity 2030 strategies that came out a few weeks ago, we see that the EU Commission is taking a bit the way to design more sustainable food systems. And I was thinking how, regarding research, how do you plan to support these programs? And especially because, to me, everything that concerns sustainable food systems have been experimented by our ancestors in Europe, or at least a lot of it. So maybe do you plan also to involve a large range of researchers, such as social researchers, historians, and so on, to gather the knowledge and repropose the knowledge we already have, but maybe forget to have sustainable farming and food systems here in Europe?
It is a good question. I don't, at least maybe I don't know if Maura you want to answer, but I'm not very precisely. I don't know very precisely the new farm to work strategy. I didn't saw that it will change the research strategy, so but maybe it is worth to go more into the details. And concerning the social researcher or the historian and so on, in every committee within the composition of the academics, there are some academics coming from the experimental field, but also there is one or two academics coming from social field. So it is very important for us, and I think that's one of the main difference between what we will propose and what is now already proposed is that we have this social in research that should be more and more investigated. It's very frustrating because we are now 1 minute from the end, or 1 minute to the end. If I don't know how it will happen, but thank you everyone, and please keep. We can keep in touch if we can continue the conversation.
Yeah. I don't know. Aude, you want me to add something about the last question, or?
I don't know how it will occur because we are the time is running out. So I don't know how. Maybe we can have some discussion on the Discord channel as the IT support, as Max proposed. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining this session. As Aude already has pointed out, you can further discuss on the Discord channel I post in the public chat. Thanks for joining the session, and yeah, see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.